speaker. Simon T. Bailey is a world-class speaker. He's been doing a lot with the NSA. He's won lots of awards. He can tell you all of those things, but really, truly, he is a servant's heart. We met through a friend that you'll meet on here, Tim Taylor. He'll be speaking on day 3 about the platform you can use, the great discovery to actually license your courses with ease. But I wanted him to come on because he does corporate a little bit different than I do. And, that's when I started looking at who else is doing this, but maybe has never shared their secret sauce of how they're doing that. So Simon T. Bailey, he's going to talk about stop chasing stages and become the speaker that the world chases. Who doesn't want to be the speaker that the world chases? Yes. So Simon T. Bailey led sales at Disney Institute before working inside 2,600 organizations across 55 countries and authoring 12 books. Like, are you have anything else to do there, bro? Are those all your books back there? So he has, including Amplify Hope, lead from where you are standing. He built a message so magnetic that organizations came to him rather than the reverse. Creator of the nationally recognized State of Working America study. He is an amazing person. Like I said, comes with such authenticity and really helps you feel like he's really serving you. And I hope that all of these speakers have really felt like they've poured into you. They've given you some of their best knowledge. They're really giving you what you need. And so I'm super excited to have Simon here to share his secrets to the trade and what he's been doing for years to be that successful. So thank you so much, Simon, for being here, and I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Aaron and Jay, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm going to share slides in a moment. But first of all, let me just say hi, Dr. Ruby, Sherry, Marla, Ilka. Let's see, Daniela. Hey, Diane Nerves. Hi, Bernadette, Marcia, Jennifer, Lisa, Dr. Moreland. Hi, Joyce. How are you? Let's see who else is here. Ricky, Francis, Saban. Roxy, Josette, it is so nice to meet all of you, and what an amazing day. I know that you have learned so much, and I am just going to kind of book in and share just a few thoughts with you before I share slides. But I'd just like for you, wherever you are, if you just sit up straight and let's just take a deep breath on three. One, two, three. Amazing. Let's do it again on three. One, two, three. Thank you so much. When you take a moment to slow down and just really consider everything that you've learned today, you are creating that alignment of head, heart, and hands. And when you create that alignment of head, heart, and hands, you discover that this is the moment. This is the opportunity for you to be the one. When you understand how to be the one, you don't chase stages, stages chase you. So I'm going to take you through a few things that I've put together. And as I share these slides with you, I am going to kind of give a little bit of the backstory, and then I'll come off of slides and you can ask me any question that you want. But I want to start with, are you in the speaking business or are you in the business of speaking? Because that distinction is critically important. So when I think about that, I have to always kind of go back to my journey. September 21st, 1996, I joined the happiest place on earth. And the first couple of days at Disney, it's been at Disney University. And at Disney University is where you drink the Kool-Aid, you sniff the pixie dust, and you get the microchip planet right here, and you come out singing. It's a small world after all. And people often ask me, why did I leave Disney? So I'm going to share a little story with you. Not very proud of it, but this is the story that literally I've been telling for 24 years since I left the Mouse House. December 10th, 2001, I'm sitting at my desk at the happiest place on earth. And whenever you work at Disney, you never talk to the media unless authorized. So I got a call from a journalist and he said, "Where do you see yourself 10 to 15 years from now?" And I said, "I see myself as the president and CEO of the Walt Disney World Resort and eventually the chairman and CEO of the Walt Disney Company." And he puts us in print. So the article comes out, page 12, Florida Business Trend magazine. Still Google it to this day. And my boss calls me in the office and he's like, "Dude, what were you thinking when you did this interview?" And I said, "Larry, I work at this company whose motto is, if your heart is in your dreams, no request is too extreme. For when you wish upon a star, it makes no difference who you are, but obviously it does here." So funny today, not funny then. So you can imagine HR shows up. They asked me to sign a piece of paper that went into my personnel file. And I got a call from one of the senior vice presidents who was my executive sponsor and mentor at Disney. And he said, "Do you need me to go to the president on your behalf? Because this is really bad." And I was like, how bad is it?" And I think what he was alluding to is like, dude, if this article would have come out before the markets closed, people would say, "Who's this guy to be president at Disney? He's in line. Who's this guy?" And I was like, "No, don't go to him." So HR shows up, and let's just say Disney didn't fire me that day. But about a year later, I heard the footsteps coming, and they were not singing. It's a small world after all. And I realized it was probably in my best interest for me to find my happiness elsewhere. So 24 years ago, after putting my resume on the street, getting about 4 or 5 job offers, one of them being an internal move at Disney, I decided that I was going to throw caution to the wind and totally go for it. So 24 years ago, I cashed in my entire 401k with significant Disney stock, took out a line of credit on the house, and at the time, the mother of my children, she was not working outside the home, and our youngest was 18 months old, and our oldest was 4 years old. And I had that line of credit, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give ourselves 3 years. And if it doesn't work, I got to go back to Disney begging for a job. But here we are 24 years later. And I share that with you as a backdrop because I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And as I share with you the business of speaking and how do you truly be the one, I'm sharing from a place of failure, but also discovering success. So, Aaron, thank you so much because this is the first time I've ever kind of presented in this type of format. And I made sure that it was a good hair day for me today. Jay and I go to the same barber. So I'm going to really, really try to do what we can here. So, where I'd like to start, here's the question for all of you. What's your purpose for speaking? What's the why? And if I'd love for you to put that in the chat because it will kind of build on everything that I'm going to share. What I've realized is when you have that why, and perhaps this question was asked earlier in the day, so I'm truly kind of bookending it coming back around to say, what's that purpose for you? And I submit to you, with everything happening in the world right now, there is a message that is in you that the world needs. And when you, oh brilliant one, that's right, I'm calling all of you brilliant because anyone that communicates has something brilliant to say. When you show up with your message, you hug people with your words. And when you hug people with your words, they begin to believe in what you are saying because you are transferring to them a mental model of how to think in a fresh way. Peter Senge, in his book, The Fifth Discipline, talks about a mental model. Another way to think about it, one of my mentors said, within every brain, there is a mind. Within every mind, there's a belief system or a mental model. Within every belief system or mental model, there is a shaper, and within every shaper, there is a story. So if we want to be the one, what is the story that shapes the mental model or the belief system that impacts the brain? And what you are bringing to the table right now, do understand that the reason you weren't born in the 18th century is because you weren't needed. You exist now for what you are carrying. So when we start with the why you're doing this, yes, you want to make money. Yes, you want to run a profitable speaking a business. But if you start with, I want to make this money, you're not going to do this for long because customers can smell desperation a mile away. I'm not telling you what I read in a book. I'm telling you what I know. And so when you have that why, it's the thing that when you go to bed at night, you are answering what Harry Kramer, former chairman and CEO of Baxter Healthcare, you are answering those questions. What difference did I make today? What value did I bring to the world today? And how will I grow tomorrow? And so that why question unpacks so many things because you have a really good night's sleep. And when you wake up the next day, you say, I can make a difference. So what does this look like? The first big thing I want you to think about in being the one having stages chase you is that you are in the content media distribution business. You are a content media company. And you're probably saying, Simon, why? Keynotes are just the start. That's just the start. The keynote is the sales call. I have been doing keynotes for a number of years. I absolutely love it, but I eventually realized that in all of the books, which become audiobooks, which become ebooks, the question you're asking myself or asking yourself is, can the content that I have babies? And if it can have babies, you're starting to think bigger than just the speech. But then, what about digital courses? So, a number of years ago, probably 14 years to be exact, I was speaking at an event and a woman came up to me and she says, are you familiar with lynda.com? I'm like, no, never heard of lynda.com. Obviously I don't get out much. And she said, if you ever come to Montecito, California, give me a call. I want to introduce you to my friend Linda. I'm like, okay. Well, a few months later, just happened to be in Montecito, which is near Santa Barbara. And I go to meet with her at our country club. And this is the country club where, they say, would you please pass the Grey Poupon? I mean, it was posh, posh. It was bougie. And so she said, her friend Linda shows up, and Linda says, her and her husband Bruce started a company because they were watching YouTube and realized people wanted to figure out how to put things together, how to do things, how to build a website. And so 25 years ago, they started this company, and she says the future of books is micro learning. Well, she said micro learning. It just like went right over my head. I was like a deer staring at headlights. I would insert in this moment, bless my little heart, because I didn't get it. So she said, follow me, get in your rent a car and follow me. And that day I got in my rent a car, drove over to the lynda.com headquarters. And all I remember that day was about 500 22-year-old young people running around everywhere. And I'm like, what is going on? And she walked me into a content meeting. She said, this is Simon. He's my friend, and I want him on the platform. And the content team said, okay, Linda. And they looked at me. They're like, dude, this is not how it works. Like we vet you, and it takes about 6 months to a year to get on, but you're Linda's friend, and here you are. And that's when my eyes opened up that I was able to go into a studio, create content. I didn't even know how to create a course. And I reached out to a friend of mine who spoke the lynda.com language. She created a course for me, and that course, Building Business Relationships, has reached almost 400,000 people in 100 countries, all because I began to understand the power of content. It changed everything for me. And now they ACH a check to me every month because I created it one time. So I know that Aaron and Jay are doing an amazing job in walking you through thinking about your content. And I'm just coming alongside to just kind of add a little piece more to that puzzle. But here's the other question. What about your online community? And then what about training and consulting? I gave a keynote a few years ago, and the client came to me and says, hey, you worked at Disney. Do you have any content on creating customer service? And the answer is yes. Now, what's the question? Because I did. So I got with a friend of mine who worked at Disney University. She had went out on her own, and I hired her to help me put together a book called Be the Spark: Five Platinum Service Principles to Create Customers for Life. Because I didn't want to use any of the Disney content. I didn't want the Mickey police coming after me. And this book came out in 2018. And I'm just sharing with you from a standpoint of validation. I don't want you to think I'm trying to blow smoke up my leg or anything, but I do want to have some proof points. So this book came out 2018 and it's in its second printing. And we just got a call a few weeks ago from Lexus, who ordered 850 copies of this book, all because when somebody asked me the question, I said yes. And I created the principles. And this book, just one book, $25, has now become a workbook, and it's now become a licensing piece where I had a company last year that licensed the use of the book and workbook for the entire year. I only had to show up one time virtually to present. That opportunity came as a result of thinking as content distribution. And now, with Lexus buying 850 copies of the book, I said to one of our team members, I said, hey, wait a minute. We need a facilitators guy because beyond Lexus, there's going to be other opportunity. So when you think through content distribution, you're saying, what else do I have that I can bring to the world that will connect me with individuals? But it all started with a speech. And then obviously there's mentoring. Now, I will admit, over the last 24 years, I have reinvented probably six times. I've gone through a few divorces. I have gone through a bout with prostate cancer, overcame it, thank God. Have dealt with IRS debt, $500,000. So I am perfectly imperfect. I am flawed beyond belief. But I do know how to smell money. I'm just saying. Because when you pay a five-figure alimony every month, it gets real. So one of the things I realized in mentoring, I had to be mentored. And I am blessed to have a number of people who've poured into me, but from time to time, I've poured into others. But it all comes around content distribution. Now, let me say this, and then I want to build on this. Becoming the one where you don't chase the stage is when you have content distribution, customers will find out about you because you're everywhere all the time. So, what's the net, Simon? I am saying create content, write, speak, record, do it consistently, and take courage that you have something to say. Because what will happen, and I can't tell you when it's going to happen, somebody's going to call you, somebody's going to reach out and say, I saw your video, I read your article, someone sent me something that you did. How can we begin to work together? That is someone who's come to you because you had a proof point out in the world that said, your content really matters. So now let's build on this. And let's like kind of like what's the research out there? And I realize that Aaron and Jay may have already shared this, but 37 years in the hospitality meetings industry, I'm always just curious just to see what's out there. So research says that there are probably approximately 1.9 million corporate business meetings and trade shows. All right, interesting. A number of those fall into the corporate side, and then the other fall into the trade show and convention side. So the opportunity for you is enormous. And I just didn't want to say that. I wanted to back it up with numbers. And I know Erin is a deep researcher, so she probably has already shared this with you. To add on to this, just to break this down even more, is this is how much is spent on meetings every single year. And when you look at the breakdown of the meetings, 84% of those meetings with 500 plus attendees, and then 84% of those meetings, they hire a speaker. And The other thing that I like to look at is kind of what the budget is. And let me just say, when you see a budget of say 10,000 to 50,000, there is a lot of opportunity below 10,000 as well. So it doesn't matter. You're saying, Simon, I only charge 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000. I don't want you to get hung up on what you charge. When I first started out, I was still working at Disney. I took a vacation day to go and speak for the state of Florida, and they paid me $500. All right, that's where I started, $500. I was grateful because I had some diapers to pay and an electric bill to pay. I was working at Disney. So I was like, let me take this. That's where I started. So it's not so much where you start, it is in the consistency. John Maxwell, one of my mentors, often says that consistency is the key to the breakthrough because consistency compounds over time. So when you think about being the one, what is the surround sound approach that you will have for the content that you bring into the world? All right. Now, here's something else to consider. Right now, customers are thinking about 2027. I just talked to a customer today who booked me for September of next year. We are barely in August. She's already working ahead. She said, my chairman of her association saw me somewhere and said, call to see if I was available. I said, yes. And she said, okay, send me a contract. And I said, I require a 50% deposit to hold the date. So that's cash flow, that's cash in hand that we're going to hold that date. And I don't deliver the service until next year. So be thinking that if I get out there and I begin to promote myself, you can be booked. But here's the other interesting thing. A lot of customers are looking for is there continuing education units that can be offered. This is just something else that you can take with your content and get it approved. And they're like, yes, we need the CEUs. And it happens in the accountant space where they're like, great content. You can do a keynote, you can do a breakout, and they get credit for it. For the last 2 years, I have been on tour with a pet pharmaceutical company. And every month, once a month, I am with a group of veterinarians and I am teaching what else? Customer experience. How do you be the spark? And when they show up, the pet pharmaceutical company ensures that they get continuing education units. Now, how we connected 2 years ago was truly serendipity, but somebody saw my content, reached out to a speakers bureau and said, hey, would I work in the space? I had never worked in the space, but since working in that space, they have booked me for 2 years straight. But it started with content, all right? So here's normally when they call for proposals, and I do have a little surprise for you. And Aaron, I didn't tell you this, but something that is going to be just a little thing I think that might help you as you think about being the one and really building your business. So, and I apologize in advance for this slide. There's a lot of information that I'm going to go through, but I just want you to think about picking your lane, thinking about your passion. And I intentionally ask you questions, Socratic method of learning, instead of saying, do this, do that. A lot of times I can get um, uh, prescriptive to say, okay, you need to do this. But I wanted to ask you questions because you are a part of Aaron and Jay's community. You're really wicked smart. If I was in Boston, I would say you're wicked smart people. So I'm asking you this question for you to begin to think about if we were to borrow a line from Dr. Stephen Covey, starting with the end in mind. What's that passion? What's that driver? Because when you're not getting the phone calls back, are you still going to wake up the next day and still say, I'm in this? Okay. Then what's the problem that you are really solving? So let me give you an example. So I leave the mouse house and I jump out, I hang my shingle out, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be a speaker. And everyone told me that I needed to pick a lane and, kind of just stay in that lane. And I decided, okay, I'm going to talk about brilliance. 24 years ago, there were very few people talking about brilliance. So I wrote a book called Release Your Brilliance and then Shift Your Brilliance. Had 18 or 13 rejection letters from publishers. Eventually, HarperCollins released the book in 2008. And so what was the problem that I was solving? The problem that I was solving is that people were waking up to go to work in cubicle farm. The lights were on, but nobody's at home. They were one fry short of a picnic. And they would show up at a job and work hard enough to keep a job and do just enough to keep from getting fired. So what the problem that I was solving is release your brilliance is people have brilliance that they want to release, but they show up in a place called work and they have a job. And a stop job stands for just overboard. So what I started doing is I started speaking for SHRM chapters. So if you want to know how did I build my business, I would go to a SHRM chapter and the SHRM chapter were like, oh my goodness, this is great because Gallup had just released the engagement scores. And they're like, oh my goodness, release your brilliance, perfect topic match. Well, I spoke locally for free, went to regional, a state, and spoke, didn't make any money, then went to regional, they had a little money, and then eventually they're like, hey, you need to do a mega session at SHRM's big HR conference that has anywhere from 15 to 20,000 HR people from all over the world. And when I tell you I milked that cow for about 10 years, that's how I literally built my business because I was solving a specific problem. All right. So then once you solve the problem, they hear you at SHRM. HR professionals are like, oh my goodness, can you come into an organization? Absolutely. And I went into so many organizations, was able to hang out for a number of years. And when I talk about content, I just had a client reach out to me about 6 months ago, and she said, I heard you 20 years ago. I'm now with a new company, and I want to bring you in here. Didn't have to make a sales call, didn't make a phone call. She came to me, she sold me internally to all her folks, and we were able to build from there. So when you solve that problem, what you start to pay attention to is where's the profit? Because the problem has a profit attached to it. And I put these questions here just for you to begin to think about as you are in the business of speaking. All right. You're really starting to understand, boom, this is what I need to do. So then this whole thing around presence, how you become the one is that customers don't care about your speech. They don't. A speech is like a company or a customer going to a modeling agent says, I want model one, model two, model three. They don't care about your speech. They want to know, do you have a presence where you are so dialed into their business that people are going to think you work in that company? What do I mean? Okay. So I have this concept that I've been teaching that I learned at the Mouse House, and it's this whole concept called plussing it up. And what I'm simply doing is I'm just taking stories and examples from my life, companies, businesses. So I teach this concept and I go to a customer and they said, Simon, we teach this concept called elevate the everyday. And they created this whole like system around elevate the everyday based on something that I taught. And so they shared with me a story. They said one of they're in the apartment community business, and they had rolled this out, elevate the everyday, plussing up the experience. And a maintenance worker had to go into a home to fix something and didn't know that on the other end of entering into this residence, there was a dog. So he lets himself into the apartment and sits on the floor and starts playing with the dog. The customer, the resident, notices this through the Ring camera on her phone and says, oh my goodness, I wasn't going to make it home today. The maintenance worker is playing with my dog. This is awesome. Played with the dog. Then he fixed what he needed to fix and he left. Well, the next day, the apartment resident sent an email to the CEO saying thank you so much for what the maintenance worker did. I'm going to tell all my friends this is a great community to move into. Now, you're probably saying, Simon, why are you telling this story? Because I recognize when the client brought me in, they didn't bring me in to teach customer service. They brought me in to see if I was listening with the third ear. The same letters that spell the word listen spell the word silent. So when I begin to listen, I'm like, ooh, that's the story. How do I now put their content front and center by retelling their story that elevate the everyday is looking for an opportunity to create what they would call in New Orleans lanyap, or if I was in Aberdeen, South Dakota, they would call it going the extra acre. So when you have presence, when you have that opportunity, your content goes in the background and you push their content to the front and center, and they know that you've been listening with that third ear. So then you start to create a pathway. And the pathway, if you look at these questions, you start to say, okay, if I'm working in a certain industry, what's the pain point in that industry? Where does that industry have an association that may be connected where they have an annual state or local meeting? If they have chapters, for instance, I just did a session for the American Society of Quality. It's my second time speaking to them in 10 years. Well, they started to tell me that, Simon, we've got chapters all over the country. We would love for you to come and speak to our chapters. And I started asking the question, what's the pain point? And the pain point in the quality professional space is getting a seat at the table. Okay, note to self. So, what did I do from a content standpoint? And I'm just using this as an example. I ended up writing an article about the keynote. And if you are in LinkedIn, you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see the article. But I had taken pictures after my keynote, met amazing people from all over the world. They had about 2,000 attendees. And I put the pictures of the individuals that I met talking about their awesomeness. Well, all of a sudden, from that, I got a lead from a customer who said, we saw the article that you posted, and we know that you understand our industry. Would you come and speak? And I'll be doing that this fall when I go to Boston. So, my whole point when you begin to pick your lane and begin to think about your approach, these questions are just things for you to consider. All right. Now, a few more things, and then I'm going to go really fast so that I make sure that I leave time for any questions that you may have. So, when you look at this, all I'm inviting you to do is to say, okay, if I'm going to pick a lane, I'm going to focus on this. If I'm going to pick lane two, I'm going to focus on that. If I'm going to pick lane three. Now, let me share with you so no one's confused by this. You will often hear that you need to go in one direction. I am a generalist, and what I've done is basically have taken content and I can drop it into a leadership lane, a customer service or customer experience lane, or a professional or personal development. In those lanes, it is generally a core message where I'm bolting on solutions to a problem. Okay. So, for example, I was in Jackson, Michigan last week with a credit union, and the first day they wanted me just to do something for leaders. That would be the first lane. The second day, they said, hey, can you do something for our all staff hands on? Yes. And so, first day leadership, second day customer experience. But I also realized that they wanted some professional development. So I left some tools behind and resources to stay engaged with them. And I'll write an article about not necessarily any of their proprietary insight, but what I learned from them while I was there. So that's when you pick a lane, there's so much there. That's how you become the one. All right. So a few email examples. Thank you for your quick response, Melissa. Melissa was my former business manager. And oftentimes, if you have a book, please write a book. If you don't have a book, get the book done because books become a brochure. It's the leave behind. So this client began to say, yes, we want you to come in and speak. Here's the fee. But when we look at books, we're going to get a sponsor. And so They came back to us with what they could do. So when you go in and you get an opportunity, you want to get all the money, not just some of the money. Absolutely travel, have them pay for your hotel nights. And those are things I'm sure you've already heard. All right. Here's another one. And this one is a little bit in depth. So it says the client has already booked Chris Gardner. And this is the Chris Gardner from the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. All right. So, and they say, here's some other slots. They kind of break it down. You can have a breakout session in addition to the keynote. You know, we may have some keynote money left over. It's going to be in Phoenix. Here's the topics. And then if you notice, they say the topics they do not want. All right, so you're paying attention to all of this. And what I've discovered, and I still do this to this day, and I encourage you to think about this, the fortune is in the follow-up. Say yes, even though you're like, you know what, I'm not sure. When you say yes, it forces you to say, you know what, I know I have the content. I know I can deliver. But there have been some things that I have walked away from and I have referred to other people because it was not in my wheelhouse. And the integrity of saying no, it protects your yes. Okay. Now, here's a little surprise that I said that I was going to share with you. So Sam Richer, if you go to this website, he literally has created a lead machine where he has scraped through the internet via AI to find out all of the events that are available. Let me give a disclaimer. I don't have any affiliation or get anything on the back end from recommending Sam. I know that Aaron and Jay are going to smack my hand. I'm a newbie, don't get out much. So I just want to be honest with you. But this is a resource where I showed you 1.9 million meetings happening. What Sam does is he scrapes through the internet to say, if you are looking for an opportunity to speak and you're not sure where to get leads, and I know you probably have heard of amazing resources today, this is just another one that I suggest for you to check out, where it can begin to tell you this is the group, this is when they meet, this is what it looks like, and how do you get in the game. So I wanted to share that with you and just a few more slides, and then I am making sure I watch my time here. Uh, I want to give you a few other resources because people say, okay, Simon, how do I go from free to fee? How many of you, and I'm curious, you can post this in the chat, have heard of MPI.org? If you've heard of MPI, just out of curiosity. Let me go to the chat here so I can see this. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Some of you haven't. All right. So, Meeting Professionals International is an association of meeting professionals. This is what they do. Corporate meetings, you name it. And they have an annual meeting and they have chapters all over the country and they have regional groups. These are the folks that can buy your services as a speaker. And so I only share them with you as just a resource to consider. There's an organization called IMEX. This is one of the largest events in the world for meeting professionals. It happens in Vegas every year. And I'm putting this on your radar screen to just to begin to say if there are 1.9 million business meetings, who are the folks that are making the decisions for those meetings? And they probably are in any of these three organizations. The last one is ASAE, which stands for the American Society of Association Executives. So, whatever state you live in, there's an association. For instance, I live here in Florida. There's the Florida Bar Association, it's the Florida Medical Association. And the Florida Medical Association tees up to the American Medical Association, which hires speakers. ASAE is the governing body out of DC that advocates on behalf of their associations on policies and different things to ensure associations run efficiently. But the point of why I share this with you is when you understand where the people are, you can go to them and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. So another place to think about is just to say, Simon, if I'm just starting out, where could I go? What about your Chamber of Commerce? This is how I started. I'm going to chamber meetings, networking. Obviously, BNI is all over the country with chapters, the Rotary Club, going there to kick the tires. This is definitely steps above Toastmaster. Toastmaster is great, but if you want to really start to connect with business people in your community who may be able to hire you or refer you, this is a great place to start. All right, so I will end here and I will come off of the slide so you can ask me any questions. So, with everything happening in the world right now, as you know, people are looking over their shoulder thinking that AI is coming for their job. And what all of you brilliant communicators have a chance to do is to practice AI, actual intelligence, by helping people understand that we are now in what I call the hope economy. And in the hope economy, let me give you the research. Uh, Carolyn, Dr. Carolyn out of University of Maryland, an economist with the Brookings Institute, Carol Haskins, says that for 20 years, economists have studied happiness. Going forward, she says in their research that they have to study hope. Because if people don't have hope, they will not be productive and drive innovation. And at some level, all of you, in what you communicate, you are inviting people to have hope and to never, ever, ever give up. All right. Last thing that I have that I offer clients. So you probably say, Simon, you're speaking. How do you capture the information of those in the audience? And there's a company called Talkadot, and you can check out them online. Phenomenal. But what I do is I have customers scan to give me feedback on what did they take away, but to also, if they would like to have a conversation after the keynote, they can drop a question and our team will follow up with the question that they have, but we've also captured their email address. And it is just the way that we go about capturing that email address. And we just started this just not too long ago. So we're still trying to figure out how to best perfect it. But Talkadot was the one that just helped me understand how do we get feedback. And I'm so interested in answering the questions. So we're figuring out now the marketing piece to go back to them. But I share that with you. So these two ladies heard me at an event for Life Sciences Medical Association. And I gave them an exercise to do. And I said to them, if they do this exercise, I'm going to write a story about them. Well, sure enough, I wrote a story about them, posted it in my LinkedIn newsletter. We have about 15,000 followers in our LinkedIn newsletter. Well, they reached out to me via direct message from LinkedIn. They said, Simon, as a result of the exercise you told us to do, we are now up for an award that our association we've been nominated for because of what we did. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a phenomenal story. And because of that story, realizing that it wasn't about a speech, it was about instead of look at me, how do we focus on there you are? And here's what makes you brilliant. And when you do that, it's counterintuitive. You'd be the one because the customer becomes your unofficial marketing department because you're making it about them. All right. I'll stop there. Questions, thoughts, comments. I know I stand between you and the bar. I'm sorry, dinner. Any questions, Aaron? Keep me honest here.
Yes, we got Sherry. Sherry, come off. Go ahead and come off mute.
Hi, Simon. I just had a question. You talked about the book and how important having a book is. And I just wanted to get your opinion on even a self-published book matters to people.
So, Sherry, I'm going to answer that question two ways. And first of all, Sherry, thank you for your question. Years ago, I was always taught that you need to be with one of the big six. And so I chased after being with the big six. And I did that. But then what I realized today in the world that we live in, you can have a self-published book that you can put next to a nationally published book and it looks good and people don't care because it's the richness of the content. So I'll give you a prime example. I had signed a deal with a major publisher last year. They came to me and they said, "We want to publish your book." If I said their name, you would know it. Well, I got into the throes of, the book. I had been writing the book for almost 2 years. They came back to me in February and says, "Oh my goodness, we don't like the title." I'm like, "Huh? Retro? You don't like the title? Why didn't you tell me that at the beginning?" Net net, I ended up getting out of the contract with them because I said, "You know what? How you do everything is how you do everything." Fast forwarding, I created my own publishing company, and my new book that will be out October 1st is called Amplify Hope. They didn't like the title. Lead from where you are standing. And I said, I'm going to fall on the sword. It's going to be on me. And the book, I found a book designer. She is brilliant. What? And she has my vision. And here's what I did. I put the book cover on LinkedIn and I asked for people to tell me of the five choices, which one they like best. And we had almost 300 comments from people saying which one they like. So it doesn't matter if it's published. Oh, I did work with a coach, a self-publishing coach, and she said, Simon, don't name your publishing company your name. So we came up with a clever name called VIP, Vital Intelligence Press. And that's who's going to release the book.
Awesome. Thank you. That's so helpful. And I enjoyed your talk very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, I've never, I mean, I have one published book. It's a coffee table book, so it's not even like an act. I mean, it has chapters and all the beautiful things, but all of my books have been self-published and I sell them in the back of the room. I sell them to the corporation in bulk. All of those things, they just are like, we can give this to our people. They're going to be so excited about this. Like I said at the beginning, I love gifts. Gifts is my love language. If I walk out with a book, if I walk into an event and there's books and workbooks on the counter, I am like all in. I'm all excited to dig in. Like these feel like gifts. And corporations look at books as assets that they can keep delivering to people and help people grow and get better at the position. So it doesn't matter if your book isn't self-published. Here's one thing that we talked at the very beginning. Stephen, who will be here next 2 days, and then he'll be speaking on day 3. He actually did 240,000 or 204,000 copies of his books inside corporations because he has it placed on KDP on Amazon for $29. But when he gets into a conversation, he's like, you know what? I'll sell them to you for $10 a piece for your entire company, right? Again, separate line item than the line item of hiring a speaker, right? And so those books can help carry you and make you more money. Like I said at the beginning of the day, these people could not meet my $10,000 fee. Guess what? They came up because they have a materials fee budget. And then we're going to be talking about online courses after that. So there are ways to do that. So don't be worried about having to have somebody's name on it. You can create your own publishing company. You can reach out. I have lots of people who do have publishing companies. It's not hard to start. AI helped a lot of my friends start their own publishing companies.
Nice.
So you
Nice.
can just do that. And so they just love being able to have something tangible. So that's really great.
And congratulations to Dr. Ruby and Marcia on your books coming out.
And
Uh,
there's a question after my own heart from Dr. Ruby. Do you have a mastermind, Simon?
I don't, and I know that's a Jay question that Ruby is asking. But after listening to you, Jay, last week teach about masterminds, I'm certainly thinking about it now, but I currently don't have one yet.
Yes, you need one. I mean, everybody in here, if you're thinking, here's one thing I built. I was doing all those workshops in corporate And then I was like, well, what can I sell that's not my time? So I started an external mastermind. And so I was going to Boeing, Expedia, Microsoft, Google, Smartsheet, Apple, and doing all these things. And then I was enrolling them into my mastermind. And it was beautiful because these women supported each other. And one woman was working at Google. No, yeah, one woman was working at Google, and this other woman was working at Amazon, very high level. She was like 3 steps away from Jeff Bezos. She was the global pricing person for the whole European market. Huge thing. She wanted Google. Her dream job was Google. This woman got her the dream job in Google. So that's the power that a mastermind can have. And it doesn't have to just be all you guys. Like we talked about leveraging your time. This masterminds is a way to do that. So we'd love to have that.
And show
And
up
we'd
first
love
thing tomorrow morning because I'm going to share 5 or 6 different types of masterminds that you can actually sell to corporate clients.
Yeah,
Yes, I love that. He's going to be the first one to kick us off. And oh yeah, the speaker leads again. Does somebody have that? I didn't keep that as
I
I
am
was making
going
sure y'all got your VIP
to.
gifts. For everyone who
I
did
do have it.
upgrade, I did send out everybody's gifts. I posted Simon's free gift in the chat. Do you want to talk to him about the chapter of the book that they're going to get?
Yeah, so Shift Your Brilliance is a book that I wrote a few years ago, probably one of my best sellers still to this date. And I wanted to give you the first chapter because when I wrote this, I actually wrote the book with the help of an instructional designer. I could spend about an hour on just the importance of instructional designer as you're building out your content, but I won't. What we did is when we wrote the book, she said, Simon, you have to write it with the understanding of adult learning theory. So you will see in that chapter how we kind of laid out its storytelling, its questions, it's engaging, it's back and forth. So you are interacting with both sides of the brain. So I wanted y'all to have that as you're thinking about your book. I said, y'all, can I say y'all here, Aaron? Does y'all
Yeah, you could
translate
say
for
y'all.
y'all? Okay, all right. Just
Y'all,
wanted to
y'all.
check. Yeah, so that's my free gift to you.
I love that. Yeah, so make sure you grab his book, that chapter, and really look at it. And I really agree that if you just look at it from, what you think is important in learning, and then what you actually, and you can use AI to help you act as if you're an instructional designer, a curriculum designer, using these theories, using these kinds of things. It can really help you start to think about your content a little differently as well. So that's really
Yeah,
great.
something else, and Ilka just posted this in the chat. Uh, the intentionality of design. I'm a stickler for design, look and feel. In the world that we live in now, people look at things very quickly and they can tell if it's been designed well or if somebody just kind of rolled up and said, let me just throw this together. So as you're thinking, and because of AI, you can have things designed really well. I just kind of point that out because I think it's important. Okay.
Yeah, no, it is. And look and feel. This is what corporations are buying. Look and
Hmm.
feel. Do you look like you have your stuff together? Is this
Hmm.
more than just you, a talking head that comes in and gives us information? Does this exist without you? Can we continue
Hmm.
this while you're gone? And that's some of the important things about making sure you have those kind of assets and making it look very professional. And like I did some work into this, I researched this.
Simon, I just want to say this is my first time meeting you and hearing you speak. And aside from just gold, I really appreciate you sharing your origin story because you've clearly had some incredible success. But I love that you brought us, from how you started out and you started simple. And I love the emphasis on sticking with your why and then the emphasis on sort of providing value, like where can I provide value instead of how can I sell something, what will people buy, right? Focus on the why and the value, and that's just a beautiful message, so thank
Thank
you.
you, Jay. And that's how you have stages chase you, that people can sense that you're really in it for them and not just to get the check and run. And when they sense that, they become your unofficial marketing department because you're there to serve.
Yep.
Love that.
And you build the trust, like we were talking about earlier. Build the
Absolutely.
trust. And then if I say, oh my gosh, this person, you have to listen to this person is your next step, I will tell you, people just go, okay. And they'll walk with their open wallet. Simon, Aaron told me you're my next mentor, you're my next person. And they're like, what do I pay you? What is it? They don't even ask what's in it. And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing that you can build if you build these relationships and you keep delivering at your highest value, really coming from a service. And like I said, those assessments when you are in corporations, finding out what else they need. What else did you maybe miss? Because when I got started, my very first course, I pitched it at an event and we had all these VIPs and I went up and pitched mine and I had all these men around me and I pitched my Transformational Speakers Academy. When I looked up from my script, I'd just written it. We were doing it in this workshop. I looked up from my script and 3 people had their credit cards out. I was like, now that's offer validation, right? But what happened
Wow.
was one guy said to me, but I'm really scared of public speaking. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even cover that because
Wow.
I'm not. So I wouldn't think that, right? But that would have been the first actual module for the course. And so because I got that information from someone else from the outside, the people doing the work, the people that are struggling with these problems, then you can just insert that back into your programs and your offerings and then go back to your corporate buyer and say, hey, I didn't solve that problem. This came up in the middle of our event. How about I do something more that can serve that problem as well? And that
Wow.
makes you indispensable.
Wow. So good.
It's a great job. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Simon, for being here. I am
Thank you.
so, so happy that, we only met like a few weeks ago and I was like, wait, you need to come on here. People are going to want to hear you. And I'm excited to do more because I know we have another summit together and other things coming up. And then when I move to Florida, we're going to be hanging and we're going to be hanging over at Tim's house too. So
Yes.
we'll
Yes,
be
yes,
sharing
yes.
lots of stages together in the future.
Yes. Thank you. Nice meeting everyone. Jay, good seeing you. And remember, I love you. I believe you. I believe in you, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. Hug people with your words.
I love that. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Simon.
All righty.
So as we conclude today, I'd love to, is there any ahas? We have like 8 more minutes. Yes, I got all the VIP gifts. You guys all should have those. I hear that I have different dates on the challenge. I went and looked. I haven't found it, but if somebody can point that out, I will go fix it. But you have all of your gifts. The VIP ticket gets you all of the speakers' gifts, the VIP gifts. It gets you the VIP ticket to our challenge, which will be in 2 weeks that we talked about. But these are the things that are going to be your next steps. I gave you the licensing to corporations. I gave you handbooks to literally go through all of this and go, okay, this is the step by step I need to do to be able to launch this. Those are the things you're going to get in the VIP. And so and then I, threw in because I am, servant's heart. Some of you needed a little extra support. So I threw in a one-on-one call with me. So you'll get to have an opportunity for that. So don't forget to register for VIP. You get so much more. And then, like I said, we talked earlier in the day, a really dear friend and client of mine, we did our TEDx together in Florence, Italy. Mrs. Mona Doss, she is a former Washington state senator, and she passed the single-use plastics law, no styrofoam, and none of the single-use plastics for take-home restaurants in the state of Washington. And when she did that, she had to have them buy-in from both sides, the liberals, the Democrats, the Republicans, all on that scale. And she was able to negotiate and bring things in order to get some bills passed. Do you think someone's going to know some hardcore negotiation, how to enroll somebody in your idea, even if they were against it at the beginning? Well, she's going to give you guys a master class that will be in the next week or so that you'll have access to. Come learn from her, ask her any questions. She's a ball of fire. You can find out more about that when you join the VIP, but that is also a really great bonus. She couldn't be here on this summit. She had other things. So I said, well, what if we make this a VIP bonus? And she was like, I love that because I want to help these people understand how you do need to negotiate. What do you need to think about? How do you approach those conversations? Especially when we said earlier, you don't want to feel pushy or salesy. If you have an idea, that's what I say about TEDx. It should be your love letter to humanity. And at the end of it, your call to action isn't buy my stuff because you can't have that on a TEDx stage, but it's adopt my new idea. What would the world look like if everyone saw the world the way I did or use the tool that I do? All of those things. That is true negotiation. That's enrollment. And that's not selling my next book or my next course or my next thing. That's enrolling in the big vision of what the world can be. And you all have impact inside of you. You all have it. So it's time to get it out there and not be shy about it. Stand in it, own it, be it, because the world is crying out for more leaders like you. Jay, any last moments?
Yes, come back tomorrow and Thursday, because if you thought we had world-class speakers all day today, like Laura Doman and Roxy, who are both still here supporting us, we have some incredible speakers over the next couple of days. So please come back, and you'll get as much, if not more, from what we got out of day one, which I got a lot out of. So I have to think everyone here did. And we just want to say thank you for coming. And we hope to see you tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific
Yeah,
for round two.
We have Jay starting us off tomorrow with masterminds. You guys have been talking about it all day. Like, you want to know how to create one? What do you need to think about? What are the things? And that's a high ticket offer. Some of you might not have a high enough ticket offer. That might be your next step. So he'll be out starting the day off tomorrow. Then we have Christine Campbell Rappin talk about crickets to clients, finding your next corporate client fast. Norma Hollis is talking about authenticity as a business strategy. Dr. Richard Kay talking about influence, credibility, exposure. Catherine is speaking about the expert to obvious hire, the authority corporations actually trust, and the big difference between being a speaker and a trainer and how to excel at both. And then we're going to talk about the hidden advantage, how you show up, executive presence. This is how we talked about at the beginning. Debbie was talking about, that my glasses matched my shirt or whatever it was, that it is all about the look too. So we're going to have Amy Janice coming in and talking about some of those things, because I will tell you, a lot of my corporate C-level executives hire me to help them with communication. And I tell them that they need to be styled because they're not doing themselves any justice on stage. And it's really important to know what works for you. So come back tomorrow. We have a lot more speakers, a lot more fun. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. So we'll see you in the morning. Thank you guys so much for being here.